Boban Simic is a strong and robust MMA fighter who has been eating raw meat for approximately half a decade. He's one of the most free individuals I've ever met, and that is why I wanted to have this conversation with him. Some of the things we discussed were nutrition, raw meat, fasting, sauerkraut, semen retention, sex and women, and a little bit about self and humanity in general. You eat a bunch of raw animal products, and people generally would see this as very controversial. I mean, if you talk about raw animal products with any doctor, they're going to get a heart attack, basically. They are. We're not. But but anyway, so talk about your diet, basically, how it has affected you, and if you have any special thoughts about raw meat that most people might not have.
So, as far as it being controversial and shocking people, yeah, in America and maybe some other parts, but all around the world, it's not really that shocking. In Japan, nobody will get shocked. In Korea, Koreans eat raw birds, all kinds. I had a Korean Uber driver tell me he used to eat raw rats when he was in Korea. So, like all around the world, they eat raw. It's just here in America, it seems like it shocks people a lot. And I started. I've always been a health nut. I'm an athlete. I'm in love with myself, so I want nothing that harms my body. So since like age 18, I started questioning food. When I found that they put fluoride in our water and toxic stuff, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to eat these chemicals. So around 18, I became real strict. And then I was doing I cut out all gluten, like I think it was like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, and that felt a lot better. And then I moved to a keto diet, and that felt freaking amazing, being fat fueled. And I was watching a lot of documentaries like in Africa and stuff, and I love sushi. It was always my favorite food. And my uncle talked about eating, like, when he had money, he used to buy Kobe beef and eat it raw. And he always had these good stories about how him and his friend would like sit down and eat a whole slab of raw meat. So I was never against raw meat, and I thought to myself, like, I had that stupid mentality. I thought dogs get more aggressive if they eat raw, which is not true. And I was like, you know what? I should just start eating raw steak once a week. See if I get more aggressive, more like animal like. Because I watched some hillbilly on YouTube talk about like how you can just eat raw steak, and I'm like, yeah, you can. He's like, it won't harm you. And I watched these documentaries like in Africa, how they eat like semi-cooked and stuff, and how they have more bacteria and so much healthier guts than us. And I was like, you know what? Once a week, I'm gonna eat raw steak, and I started to, and then I found out about just more research about Agenus Wonder Planets, the real primal diet guy. Not Liver King took his primal diet idea and stole it, but it was Agenus who started the whole primal diet, and I got most of my ideas through him and my own research. I've talked to people who eat raw, and like people from like Ethiopia and Inuit and some other people I've met online, and I've watched documentaries. But most of my information came from Agenus. Like a lot of the stuff I would look into because of keywords he would say, and I would find out more info. Like this, what I'm doing right now is not primal. He was against drinking coffee. That's like pretty much the only non-primal thing I do. And I do cook egg whites at night sometimes. Other than that, my food is all like my meat's all raw for five
Some,
years now.
yeah, something you do that Diogenes doesn't recommend is you do fasts and you do long fasts. So, can you tell us more about that, basically?
Well, I mean, Agenus was a smart guy. He's not God. He's a very intelligent, but I don't just like follow everything he does. Like I'm an athlete. I care about power and strength. And his thing was about health. He wasn't a focus. He said he never works out. So it wasn't his focus. And I know that fasting has been shown, it's proven, it boosts your testosterone like crazy. It boosts your human growth hormone like crazy. And every time I did it, I had so much energy, and I came back, like I would lose a little weight, but I would gain it all back. And like a few weeks later, I feel so much stronger. And it must be from that testosterone boost. And like all these tribes and stuff that he got his idea from eating raw meat and stuff like that, like all tribes people and religious people and stuff have fasting in their culture. I mean, humans have always fasted, and I do believe that it's okay for us to go periods without food. And I'm not gonna go against what he said because he was very intelligent. Maybe I'm sacrificing health. I don't know. But every time I fasted, I've done 10-day fasts, 7-day fasts. I've done 10-day fasts 3 times. Every time I've done it, I just come back feeling like so amazing. And like the months after that, I feel better and better. So I continue. You know, I do my own thing. Like I pick up stuff from here and there, but in the end, I listen to my body and what seems to work for me. So I don't know. I think he said it drains the adrenals or something. Maybe it has some kind of bad effect, but I go for power too. And this gives me power and I feel it. I feel more aggressive, more power, more strength. And so I strive for power and health. I try to balance it out like that. And it seems like people that fast and stuff like that seem to do better. So I don't know. I just, like I said, I do most of the stuff he says, but not everything. I follow my own thing as well and
So
my own experiments with things.
yeah, so what he said was that it you have to break down something for energy, right? If you fast, because
Yeah.
otherwise you die. And so what he said was that you're not only breaking down weak cells, you're also breaking down healthy cells. And I think that since most people that he or the people that he worked with and the people watching this probably are sick, if you
Yeah,
fast, you're
exactly.
going to go net, you're going to have a net loss. But when you do it, you have body fat, you have all of this mass, and you've been eating the diet for a long time. So I don't think it affects you like it would affect me as an example, because I don't have as much fat basically.
Yeah, yeah.
But the question I have regarding your fasting is basically, what do you drink? Do you just drink water during that time, or how do you do it?
I've done it for so long, maybe more than 5 years off and on. In the beginning, it was all water. And in the beginning, I used to chug a lot of water because I thought that was good. And that's a bad thing because I heard people tell me like that fasting's easier when you don't drink nothing. And we all know that drinking water, it dehydrates you. It flushes out all the vitamins and electrolytes and stuff. So if you're fasting, you're not eating, and you're drinking tons of water, you're flushing out all the vitamins you have, the little bit you're trying to hang on to. So I noticed my skin would get real dry. I would get some of these headaches, and it would just be not that great of a fast. So I switched it up a little bit because I know you hydrate from vegetable juice, and I know the cucumber has almost no calories whatsoever. So I figured if I drink like a cup full of cucumber juice or celery juice, and just drink a cup, and then I drink coffee too. Coffee feels good, but then I stay hydrated, and then I'm not drinking a lot of water. I might start fasting Monday, and when I fast, I don't drink that much water, almost none, other than my 2 cups of coffee and 1 cup of celery juice. And when I do that, my skin doesn't get as weird and as dry and stuff like that. So that's my little hack. Some people will say maybe it's not a true fast. I think it is because there's not enough calories in cucumber juice, and I still feel fasted. So that's the little hack I've done. But I've done 7 and 10 day fasts on just water. But like I can see my skin dries out, and sometimes they don't feel as good as doing it this way. So that's a little change up I've done. And I drink a cup or two of coffee when I fast because that it simulates like food. It gives you some kind of pleasure putting something in your mouth. There's no calories in it, so it doesn't break a fast, but it gives you it relaxes you. It makes fasting easier. So that's what I do. I drink 2 cups of coffee and a cup full of celery or cucumber juice when I fast,
Interesting.
and that's
So
it.
so you're basically doing juice fasting with coffee too.
No, no, not juice fasting. Because juice fasting, you're getting calories, you're getting carrots, you're getting sugars. I limit it to only a small little cup of cucumber, so there's no calories. So I don't even that doesn't really like if you're drinking juice, you're gonna break the fast because of the sugars. There's no sugars in cucumber celery. So it's almost like drinking water, and I'll just do a little bit. So it's not like a juice fast because juice fast you're getting calories, and you're not truly hitting that fasted ketosis state because you're getting all these carbs, and that's why I do a cucumber because cucumber basically has no carbs. So it's not like a juice fast. It feels exactly like when I do the water fast, except my skin doesn't dry out. Because if you juice fast, you're never gonna hit that thing where your body starts eating away. It's gonna get energy from the sugars and the carbs, and I don't want to do that. So that little hack of that cucumber juice, I don't think it's enough uh, calories in it or anything because there's almost none that it will break the fast or make it something other than a true fast.
I've also
But there is
seen
a juice fast where you're drinking juice throughout the day, and I don't believe in that because you're going to be getting energy and stuff from sugar. You're never going to hit that spot where it's eating away the fat and the bad stuff in your body.
I've also seen you eat sauerkraut. I've seen you ferment vegetables and eat that. So tell me
Yes.
about that, because that's something that Augenus generally didn't talk about. He didn't recommend fermenting vegetables.
Well, here's the thing. That's what herbivores can do. That's why they can process cabbage and stuff like that. We can't. We'll eat cabbage and stuff. It's got all these oxalates and toxins, and it's going to harm us, and we're not going to absorb it. Uh, Herbivores have four stomachs, so they like if you kill a animal and you like a giraffe, not a giraffe, like a cow or something like that, and you open up its stomach, it's going to be sauerkraut in there. All the vegetables are going to be fermented. So they naturally do that to bypass the toxins and the anti-nutrients and stuff and be able to absorb it. We are not herbivores, so we have to do other methods. So if we want to absorb cabbage and not get all the toxins and stuff like that, fermenting will be the best thing. Now, the bad thing is the salt. Salt is toxic. Here's the thing: I get sauerkraut. See, I'm not 100% salt free like a lot of primals. Like I'll eat a little bit of sauerkraut, but I buy from a spot where like most sauerkraut you can taste the salt. This one is like very low salted, or I make my own, and I don't use
Good.
salt. This one, I made this one using a kombucha starter, a kombucha starter culture, no salt. I spit in it. I put a little bit of honey, and I think it had a little touch of sauerkraut juice, but this has no salt, and it's soured. But it took forever, so it's much harder. And then it was sour for a while, and it lost its sourness, so I added a little bit of the raw vinegar. So this is salt free, and I think Agnes would 100% approve of this because it has no salt and it's fun. It's sour. I like sour stuff. So yeah, you can eat sauerkraut on the primal diet, except the salt part is not really primal. But you could ferment it. It's just very hard without salt. And even if you look into it, can you make sauerkraut without salt? You'll find out that you can. It's just much harder to control and not let it get mushy and stuff like that. But mine stayed crispy. It's still crispy to this day, and it's been like close to a year. And it was just started with a kombucha starter culture and honey and spit.
Onion spit. Okay, I'll remember that if I want to ferment vegetables, because I've
But
never
it's
thought of it.
don't do it because start with the tradition. Get you do a first a regular sauerkraut using salt, but not a lot, so you can get the idea of how to make a good batch. When you get an idea of how it takes to make a good batch, then you'll be able to like experiment more or try to do it the harder way. I've started fermenting like maybe 10 years ago. I'm Serbian, so it's like in my culture to we like sauerkraut like Polish. Like my mom taught me how to make my first batch and so on. So I've been doing fermenting vegetables for a while. And it's fun too because that culture can ferment anything. You can with cultures with bacteria, you can ferment. You can take a coconut cream or anything and add a little bit of culture of any kind. And it's going to ferment over a few days. So it's kind of fun to try to ferment different things, I guess.
Damn. So what I'm thinking about is taking the raw fermented milk and then putting it in, a bunch of
The
cabbage.
sauerkraut.
Yeah, without salt. Would that work?
Here's the thing with sauerkraut. When you're making it, you to make a good batch. Sometimes it'll get too mushy and too squishy, and not as that won't have that crunch. So I don't know if the yogurt or the milk it will ferment it. It will make it good for you, but you can try to experiment with it. It might make it too mushy. It might ferment it in a way where you know what I'm saying. I think it's the salt that keeps it crispy. But I realized with the kombucha starter, man, it was more crispy than the salt. But it took forever to sour. So it's like all these little things you gotta like take into equation. But yeah, experiment with it. But to make sauerkraut, it's a long process. It takes 5 weeks at least, 4 to 5 weeks for it to like if you like Polish people make and Serbians like the regular sauerkraut, it takes like 4 to 5 weeks for it to ferment.
All right. Now that we're talking about fermentation, obviously you ferment raw animal products too. So tell me about that. How do you go about fermenting, liver, meat, stuff like that? Because I haven't really done high meat in a religious
Man, in the
manner.
beginning it was I want to say scary, but it's just like you're going against you're doing something that you feel is gonna like you always thought you would die from that. So in the beginning when you do it, you see a little sometimes I mean, I don't get the fuzz now, but I remember the first time I tried a few times I got a little fuzz, like a little mold, but that's natural. I forgot what it's called. Even people that make aged beef, they get some of that white fuzz. So you get a little paranoid. And here's the thing with the fermentation. In the beginning, when it starts changing, I ate it too soon. It's really odd because it's got like regular meat's flavor, but it's got like So it's disturbing a little bit. You got to let it go up to like 3 months. And I'll tell you the process. The process is real simple. Now this is what I realized. If you leave too much air in the beginning, it might get a little bit of the mold. If you fill it up close to the top and leave a little air pocket, then it won't. And what you do is you just put a raw meat in a jar, and you're supposed to every 4 to 5 days open it, ferment it, close it up. I used to do it real strict, but now I went to Costa Rica one time and I left all my meat in the fridge in glass jars, and I came back 3 months and just ate it. A lot of it turned high, but a lot of it didn't even change that much. Like the chicken breast almost had same flavor. So by letting the air in, you let the air in, it lets the bacteria grow faster. So if you want to make it funky and really high, you should let air in. But there's ones that I left like for a while. I'm not opening, not airing out. So that's just gonna slow down the fermentation, but it's still okay. But basically the thing is you just put it in a jar and leave it alone and air it out once in a while to speed up the process. Now I like to start by leaving it out of the fridge. So when I start with high meat, I do a week out of the fridge in like regular room temperature, 70 degrees, because then it'll get funky real fast. So then it'll ferment faster and then put it in the fridge. You don't want to keep it out the fridge for too long because I think it dries out and stuff. But like the first week or two, you can keep it out of the fridge, open it out, and then put it in the fridge. And you don't have to worry like if you forget for like a week or two. Like I said, I've been in Costa Rica 3 months. It was in a jar. I opened it and I was fine. People worry about botulism, but botulism happens in canned food after years of being stored in canned airtight. It has to be airtight. No air can get in for botulism to form. You can get botulism from honey and canned honey. So I think botulism is from chemical like canned foods because you won't get that from raw meat, from rotten meat. You just don't get botulism like that. It's very hard to get, and you have to have it super airtight, like no air, canned food. That's what usually forms. So people don't have to worry about botulism. A lot of people are scared of that. You don't have to worry about that. I've eaten meat that's a year and a half old and fine. And people eat high meat that's like 3 years old and they're fine.
What benefits have you experienced from eating fermented meat, basically?
Okay, so the name high meat, I don't like it because people think people are eating this to get high. You do not get high. I have some of these primals. I think it's in their head. They say like, "Oh yeah, I get a little buzz." No, you don't. You get as much of a okay. For instance, there's blue cheeses. There's cheeses that they say will get you high, like Stilton cheese. They'll say have you have euphoric dreams. Like what's that called when you dream real aware? I forgot.
Lucid dreams.
Yeah. So they said if you eat a lot of Stilton cheese, you'll have lucid dreams. People get high of Stilton cheese. It's a legal cheese you can buy in a store. So I bought Stilton cheese. It's real green, stinky. I ate like half a pound of it. Nothing. I didn't have no lucid dreams. Same thing with high meat. First time you eat it, you're not used to it. You might get like rumbling in you won't throw up or nothing, but you'll hear your stomach go make weird noises. At least I did the first few times. You're supposed to eat small little amounts. But I've eaten big amounts and I never felt high. I mean, yeah, you might feel a little because it's a strong, like, let's say you have a shot of alcohol or espresso, you get a little wake up. So, yeah, all this aroma and stuff. And yeah, it might open up your eyes or you get a little happy because bacteria is good for you, but it's not high. A minute later, you're just normal again. So it gets that high meat because bacteria is the key to happiness because E. coli, for instance, we're told not to eat E. coli. E. coli is important. You have E. coli. You can't poop without E. coli. E. coli regulates serotonin. And a lot of the bacteria in your gut regulates mind activity. So kids who are depressed usually lack gut bacteria. So high meat is called high meat because you eat it, you get all this bacteria. So if you're the depressed person over time, it's going to make you less depressed. So feeling good, feeling euphoric. So thus the name high meat, but it does not get you high. I hate that because then it makes it seem like people are trying to get high off high meat. No, you don't get high off of it. I know some primals say they get a little buzz. I've eaten year and a half old meat. It's no high to it. It feels, it's very intense aroma and stuff, so it opens up your eyes and stuff, and you do feel good for a few. But I don't feel that great from like some people tell me they get so much energy from it. It's probiotics. Probiotics are not going to immediately go make you pump iron. It's healthy. It's bacteria. That's what it is. So I don't eat high meat that much. I eat it once in a blue. Like last time I ate high meat must have been like now it's less. I think it's been like 2 or 3 months now I haven't had any. So it's not necessary. It is necessary if you're struggling. If you're highly depressed, if you're constipated, then you got to include more. All the raw meat and stuff I'm eating, I'm getting enough bacteria that I don't really like find it necessary to eat high meat. But once in a blue, I might. Like I said, last time I ate high meat was maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
So you mentioned that you ate fungus, so it had that white fuzzy stuff. Did you eat that? And did you have any effects from that? Because I've always been, if it ever got fungus on it, I threw it out. But if it was, filled with bacteria, green liver,
I used to
all of that
scrape it
stuff,
off.
then I ate it.
I used to scrape it off, and a little bit would get in the mixture, and I would just shake it up. I never. It's got okay. So you can talk to people who make aged beef, and they'll tell you. I forgot what that white fuzz is called that forms in meat. It's white, and it's I forgot what it's called. It's like similar to what's in penicillin, but
Blooming?
huh?
Blooming.
No, not blooming. Cytoxin or something. I don't know. But I've talked to people that make high meat. They're like, "Oh, bro, you eat raw?" And I told them about my diet, and I was like, "Yeah, aged meat as soon as it gets that white fuzz." It's like, "Oh yeah, we scrape that off when we." And if you talk to people who make high meat, not high meat, people who like at Whole Foods and stuff like that who age it, they cut all that stuff off. It's perfectly safe. Nothing will happen to you because if you eat it, because I scrape some off, but some gets in there. Nothing. It's mold. It's just like food mold won't harm you. There is mold that will harm you. It forms like on like paint and like the metal, and there's like pink, I think, and purple mold. But the stuff that forms on food naturally is not going to harm you. Like if you eat a moldy berry, you'll be fine.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's black mold,
No,
green mold, white mold on food.
just
You can
just
eat
just
it.
eat it. We
Okay,
were
okay.
scavenger. Most of human history, before we had tools, we were scavengers. So people say like, oh, like all these vegans say like we're plant eaters and stuff. No, we're not. Plant eaters can digest cellulose. Every single one. We cannot. All that stuff when you juice your vegetables, that pulp left behind, that's a ton of stuff. You don't digest that. That just sits in your gut and packs you. We have stomach acid that's super strong, almost like a vulture. If you look at the scavenger stomach acid, it's 1.5, around 1.5. We're 1.5. Some people maybe 3, maybe if they eat an alkaline diet, which is not good because that's a breeding ground for disease because that acid keeps everything healthy. It's like a woman's vagina is acidic because it keeps the vagina healthy. So you need to have a strong acidic gut. People worry about salmonella. Well, salmonella can't even survive stomach acid. Our stomach acid is 1.5, like other scavengers. We're not like gorillas. Gorillas are 5 or 6. Giraffes and cows and herbivores are like 6. They're alkaline. We have strong acid, not to digest lemons and veggies, it's to digest meat. And we developed this being scavengers because before we could have tools, nice and stuff, we would just find stuff that other animals left behind and like vultures and stuff and eat rotten meat. So that's why it doesn't hurt us. We're scavengers. Most of human history, like when we started cultivating grains, was what in the time of Egypt. That's like a blink of an eye in human history. Most of human history, we were scavengers before we fashioned weapons and so on. So we have, you can look it up. The stomach acid of other scavenging animals is very similar to ours. We have strong stomach acid. We're not carnivores. We can't digest bones, but we have scavenger acid.
Oh yeah, we started
And we're
eating
closer to
grains.
carnivores. We're closer to carnivores than we're nothing like herbivores.
Definitely, we're omnivores, but more carnivorous than
Yes, yes.
herbivores. Herbivorous? Herbivore? I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, now that you mentioned vagina, I have a very interesting question. You see, I saw a video that you made where you said that you beat the 41-year-old virgin. Now, is that true? Is that actually true, or was that a joke?
No, technically, I'm like olive oil. I'm virgin. I'm not extra virgin. Meaning, I've tongued girls. I've done stuff with them. I've gotten head. I just never went in the booty hole or the vagina with
Okay,
my
okay,
penis.
all right. Because I wanted to ask you about semen retention. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something you practice?
Here's the thing. I see a lot of people telling you like not to think about sex, to watch porn, and all this. And I'm looking at most of these guys that tell me this, and they do not look that masculine. You look at the jocks, the football players, the guys that get vagina, the alpha males, the strong guys, the warriors throughout history. They've always very sexual beings. You look at animals, the rams, they fight each other over sex. Sex is aggression. You gotta constantly think about sex to boost testosterone. That's why you have testosterone, so you can procreate. It's nature. We're all sex objects. Women say, "Oh, I'm not a sex object." Yes, you are. We're all sex objects. That's the stop being in denial. Uh, so the alpha males, my two cousins were alpha males. They got girls all the time. Uh, strong guys, that's what they get. But here's the thing. I like I'm a virgin, so I've held back. So but I had sex. I watch porn. I'm always lusting after girls. So I'm probably more horny because I don't release it. So that energy gives you energy, aggression. So when I masturbate, in the beginning, I didn't release my semen because I found that I could. I watched some Kama Sutra movie and it was supposed to be hard and it's supposed to help you last longer. And at age 14, I realized it's not hard. I can just tighten up. And I started doing that not to make a mess, just not to have to go look for toilet paper and stuff, in my room. I don't want to come out. My mom's in the living room. So I just started retaining for that reason. And then I started doing that most of my life. And I realized when I release it, I feel drained. I feel weak. But if I hold it in, I can go again. I don't feel like I lost that energy. So our nature is to be aggressive and stuff and then to release. And that's a loss of energy. And I do feel women kind of absorb your energy. It's their nature. They're two poles, positive and positive is not going to create nothing. We're the positive, they're the negative. We stick in, we give the energy, they absorb. It's like a battery. It takes two poles to give energy to something. What does it give energy to? So the woman is like an energy vampire. She absorbs your stuff. She absorbs you. But it's nature, because then she's like a dark hole. She's the negative. She's that hole that you fill up. And what does the soil do? It grows something, a baby. And then the baby absorbs her nutrients. So the baby takes from the mother. So the mother absorbs you, then the baby absorbs the mother. It's just a circle of life. So it's a part of nature, but I don't engage in it fully. So I believe that by holding back, by not releasing my sperm and not fully having sex with women, I think it makes me more aggressive. I think because a lot of times, like, I'm at home, I'm horny and stuff like that. I don't have nowhere to release. I go out and punch the bag. I take that energy elsewhere. So it's productive in that way. But don't try to tell yourself you can't think of sex. I watch porn every night, pretty much. I'm always thinking about sex. It's good to think about sex because that's what makes you aggressive. That's what makes the Rams fight, because they see a vagina over there and they want to fight. If you're in the gym and there's a pretty girl there with a nice ass and stuff like that, you get like maybe 5 pounds more on that bench. It's just your natural. So here's the thing. Warriors throughout history, you think like fighters and gladiators thought about, I need enough to think about pussy. And no, man, they dominated. They were very sexual. I believe the hack is in not fully releasing. So I masturbate. I think about sex. I watch porn. I lust after girls as I should, as an alpha male. And I see these videos of people saying not to do that, but I look at them and they're always like, seem like the nerdy types who never got vagina that are telling me this. And I'm like, that's not true. The top American all-time wrestler and football player and boxer, you don't think they get alpha males try to fuck? That's nature. Nature is sexual. Everything is fucking. Every cell in your body is fucking itself and reproducing, right? I don't follow my nature fully because I'm more aware. So I'm a weirdo too. So I'm not saying you should do exactly as I do, but I do feel you get power by constantly thinking about sex and not getting it, because you're going to release it somewhere else. And I believe in that. I believe in a semen retention that way, which most people can't do. I can have a full orgasm. I can just go full orgasm and I just tighten everything. It's super hard. It takes all my power and I hold my semen back. And then I feel good and strong again. Only time I release is when a girl I get head from, I release. But I'm not a whore. I get a girl maybe once a month or so. That's enough for me. If I'm with a woman too much, they absorb. I feel more drained. So I like to have a girl at least once a week at most. I don't like it any more than that because I feel drained personally. So that's my take on that.
So there are basically two schools of semen retention. There's the Indian school where they say abstain from sexual thoughts, sexual conduct, and all of that.
And look at them. Look at Indians. Most of them. They're kind of feminine. They're not that strong. I'm not talking shit, but there's not a lot of. They're vegetarian and stuff like that. So I wouldn't follow if your goal is power and strength to be alpha male. I wouldn't follow people who say that.
And then
you can just look at them.
The Chinese schools say what you say. So basically, don't ejaculate, but be sexual. Have sex, but don't ejaculate. And so
I
keep
agree
that
with that.
energy, never release, and just build it up.
It's aggressive. Makes you aggressive.
Yeah. So they basically describe what you've just described here.
Think about wars. Wars were fought over. So many women have influenced big wars over pussy, over sex. Big wars were fought. It makes males aggressive. There's no denying that. It's a part. So don't deny sex. control it.
Boban, I wanted to ask you about, because you have very interesting thoughts about other human beings and reality itself. I mean, I've listened to your poems that are on TikTok, and you seem to have this understanding of nothingness that we don't see very often. You don't talk about God, you don't talk about meaning. You have this more pure um, vision of what humans actually are. And to some degree, I think your freedom comes from that because you're very free on social media. You do things that other people don't do, and I really admire that. So I'd like to know, what do you think about other people? How do you relate to them? How do you relate to yourself? Like, what are you really at the deepest level, so to
It's,
speak?
it's too long of a discussion that I'm not gonna get that much into it, but I'll give like a basic, I guess, uh, like religion and stuff. Like people ask, "Oh, you don't believe in God? You're an atheist?" I'm like, "No, I'm not an atheist. Like a dog doesn't believe in God. Is a dog an atheist? The tree doesn't. Is a tree an atheist? The air doesn't believe in God. The dirt, the bugs, the dolphins, uh, the whole nature, the whole reality doesn't believe in God. The whole reality is atheist. Then no, I'm not. I'm just like a dog. I'm just nature. I don't believe in Santa Claus either. I'm not a there's no theist for that. So I'm not empowering one religion by saying it makes me something because I don't believe in what I believe to be nonsense. I'm just nature. I'm just in this moment. And it's too long of a discussion to get in all of that, but like this moment is like the beauty of they say like oh people always want a purpose, they want meaning. What's the meaning of life? I already know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is it's meaningless. And that's the beauty of life because what has purpose and meaning is machines, vacuum cleaner, its meaning, its purpose is to suck up stuff. It's like robots have a I'm free of that. I don't need meaning to justify my being. Like look around. It's beautiful. Everything exists right now. It's just such a weird miracle. Like why do I have to give it like meaning to give it the beauty of my freedom is my meaningless existence. The fact that I don't need a purpose of stuff. I can give myself purposes. I can make it entertaining like that, but that's according to me. It's not the purpose of life itself. The purpose of life itself is just being for the sake of being, and that's the beauty, and that's where people create these prisons, these entrapments, and maybe it's our nature too, because like every cell in your body has to do a certain follow a certain routine and birds and everything has to. So I think we're programmed to have to like fall into a routine, to have like a big system, like a big nucleus, a president, a god, or something to control. Like I think it's human nature to create these systems. Like this system is so bad. Like even in America, it's not really about who you vote for. It's an oligarchy. The ones that control the system, they don't need your vote. They're going to control everything regardless. They're splitting you up. But I think we formed this. We form even all this artificial stuff as a. I think I don't like the human nature. So I understand human nature, but I rise above it because I feel like I'm above it. I feel like, for instance, I used to really hate humanity. It used to piss me out. I always felt, since I was a kid, I was always in my own world. I never try to get along with other kids. It was always like I'm madly in love with myself. I'm what they call, I guess you call it narcissist, but they give it false definitions now. Narcissist to me means madly infatuated and deeply in love with yourself. And all love comes from the self. So unless you deeply love yourself or infatuated with yourself, how could you love anything else? Then you're going to use something else. Then your lover, you're going to use them because they make me feel good. But if you already feel good, you don't need to use other people. You don't need to be jealous of them. So I wish more people were madly in love with themselves. Or I don't like to say narcissists now because now these shrinks try to see. Now they want you to be humble. They say be humble. Not now. Since you're a kid, they always tell you, the teachers, the parents, be humble. Google the definition of humble. Why is this being taught to us? Sheep mentality. Humble is such a bad thing to be. Look it up. I'm not making it up. 3 definitions of humble is to think lower of one's status, to think lower one's worth. It just means to like not to think low of yourself in status and of course the ones at the top, they want you to, they're not humble. They want you to be a little humble. Think okay, think that you're okay, but don't think you're too good. Because when you think you're real good, when you're really infatuated with yourself, then you don't need their cars, you don't need their drugs, you don't need all this stuff to sedate you because you're already content with who you are. So be madly. Now it's all this focus. I never heard about narcissism before. Now every time, don't be a narcissist, don't be a narcissist, because they're trying to tell you to be a little humble. Humble little sheep. Think lower of your status. Anyways, humanity, since I was a little kid, I used to look at other kids. I didn't relate to them. When I used to talk about my dreams and stuff, their dreams were more basic to me. It seemed like the kids' ideas were what their parents taught them, and mine never were. My mom was religious. I never was. I always had my own opinion, so I never related to other humans. I always enjoyed playing by myself more. And after a while, I started developing a hatred for humanity. I became a misanthrope because I just look at now with this pandemic, everybody wearing a mask, how idiotic most people are. And I've always like felt like people are phony and stuff. I used to dislike them, but now I don't. I understand the animal they are. So it's like, let's say with dogs do what dogs do. They bark, they sniff ass. If you're a dog that stops sniffing ass, and you're like, what the hell am I doing? You become aware. You start hating on the other dogs. For instance, a dog. I don't expect the dog to communicate with me and understand me on the level I I understand myself. So I'm not gonna hate that dog because he can't talk to me. I won't hate that dog because he barks or sniffs or bites. And that's how I look at human. I look at them as the animal they are. I don't hate them for their nature no more. I'm detached from it, and I'm just watching everything like a sitcom. And like that, I became much happier because before, even my MMA career, most of it was just fueled with just like not hatred, like jealous hatred, just like being pissed off at society and just always angry. But but that hatred, it robs you because I used to overtrain. I used to kill my body. So even though I had this mentality of you can't hurt me and stuff, I destroyed my body just by overtraining and just being fueled of hatred. And even my fights I fought with just hatred, just go forward, which is stupid. So as I'm getting older, I'm starting to be more positive, more in the rhythm. Like you could fight and win fights and not be just do it with hatred. You could do it with rhythm, and that's how I kind of live now. I live more in a rhythm way. I don't hate society for what it is. I look at them stupid and stuff, but I'm not attached to them. I'm watching it like I watch Jerry Seinfeld or some kind of TV show. Uh, and I learned myself not to overanalyze stuff. Like if you watch a movie and you overanalyze it, you're going to realize that's an actor and it's not going to be entertaining no more. And you're just not going to lose interest in that movie. So you got to dumb yourself down to enjoy stuff. And society's kind of like that. It's like a movie. It's like a stage. It's all bullshit. I see that. But don't let the other people watching the movie, hey guys, this is a movie. You're going to disturb them. You're going to ruin the fucking movie for them. So leave these humans alone. There's no reason to be real with fake people. I seem like I'm real with everybody, like I'm giving myself up to everybody, but I'm not. This is all bullshit. This is not really me. I've always been like that. I've always and I used to overanalyze, and I was depressed as a little kid, and I learned that detachment is the key to happiness. I think my depression as a kid was caused too because we ran out of money, and I was eating a lot of corn dogs, and my mom had to work 2 jobs, and she couldn't cook for me and stuff like that. And then I started working out, and I pulled out of that depression. I was young when I was like 13 or 14, and that's when I became obsessed with working out and stuff and diet. And that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say. That was a lot of stuff I just kind of started talking about, but that might give you some idea. I don't know.
Many interesting perspectives. Trust me, that was very interesting. But a recurring theme I see here is self. There is this self. Now tell me, because you're a very creative person, and I want to know how do you relate to that self? Like, what is it exactly? Is it located? Can you put a word on it? Can you explain it in some way? Like, what are you on in the deepest level, so to speak?
Everything. Everything is right now looking through my eyes. Everything sees is looking at itself through my eyes. So I believe like everybody like people like say what happens when you die. Well, what happened before you were born? It's like TVs. Like every TV is picking up the same signal. There's high definition, there's low definition, there's better volume ones. Reality is manifesting its awareness through all of us, through an ant, through you, through plants, in different ways. I believe that I am a high manifestation of awareness through me. I feel like people who are smart that you like Zeno of Ella, or like somebody like maybe like Alan Watts, or I think those are people who have a will of their own. I think everybody else doesn't really have a will of their own. They're kind of like still in that like stage of being like a cell in the body. Like they're just reacting to stuff. So they don't have true ideas. That's why they seem so phony to me as a kid and disturb me. But I realize they're just animals going like, let's say somebody pisses them off and now they call somebody, they're angry. Everything's like a reaction to reaction. They're kind of like a clockwork orange, like a like a robotic animal. And I think there's some individuals who have a free will of their own, and I've had it since I was a kid. I always seemed to piss against the woods. I always got in trouble in school because I was always born that way. And I think there's people like that who have a will of their own and they think different. And since all of reality is manifesting its awareness through it, I think all of reality is being influenced somewhat through it. So I don't know. And like I said, my creativity is just, I don't know, it's like an urge. And then I just create randomly. Like if you ask me to draw you something, write a poem or something, it'll be so shallow. It has to just happen in an instant, and that's how I am, and that's how my mind's always been. It's always, and I can't focus on one thing for too long. So I have my strengths are my weaknesses, because like all this stuff that I'm talking to you, it doesn't translate in like making money or anything. It's just I don't know. But anyways, as I get older, I find myself. Well, let me finish with my diet. As a fighter, as an MMA fighter, I've taken a lot of hits to my head. Like if you watch my fights, I'm just charging him. All my sparring sessions, I never wore a helmet, and I used to take a hit to give a hit. I never blocked. I never tried to avoid punches. I've had many concussions. I've been knocked out on my feet. I didn't fall because I have a strong skull, and I took so much abuse, more so than other people within that 10 years. And I felt the effects of what you would call CTE. I never got tested, but I know I have it. And the biggest thing I've noticed in this raw diet, the biggest thing, because you can be strong eating cooked. I was strong and energetic eating keto. I took a lot of supplements too. When I went raw, I stopped taking supplements because I wasn't destroying the vitamins in my meat. But the biggest thing I'm noticing in this diet, the biggest thing, mentally, I don't say unstable, but I was feeling weird depression, and I remember biking and like forgetting why I'm biking and stuff. And I think I had symptoms of CTE because all my life, not just from fighting, I've taken heavy blows to the head. I had a big bulldozer crane hit me on the back of the head. I've had a lot of concussions. And on this diet 4 or 5 years, I've been the happiest, like mentally, because it has to be the gut bacteria thing because I have all this bacteria now. It regulates your brain activity as well. I don't know what it is, but this diet, the biggest change you'll notice, because it's healthy. You can be strong eating cooked. Warriors always, you can be a strong warrior eating cooked, but this is just healthier. And that's the biggest change I've noticed. I feel like this can reverse CTE. Now, I'm not saying I have CTE, but I know if I got tested, I'm 100% going to have it because I've taken so many hits. And I feel like this reverses it because everything in your body changes. Like bones change, I think, after 2 years, skin after like a year, your organs take like 10 years to completely be made out of something else. I believe you can. You can rebuild everything and change it. And I feel my mind. I felt myself deteriorating. Like everything was ripping on my body. Like I have a lot of injuries just from overtraining like an animal. And with this diet, everything is slowly getting better. Pains are getting better. It's slow. It's not steroids or nothing. But over time, it's like this feels more and more right. I'm eating like every other animal in nature eats. There's no reason to destroy food to create carcinogens. The stuff they tell you will kill you won't kill you. It's based off of germ theory, which is a made up thing. The guy who invented germ theory, who was pasteurizing milk, El Pastor, I think his name was, I forgot.
Louis Pasteur.
Yeah, he died. He said he was wrong, and the real theory is what terrain theory, and I realized that these germ theory was what help big pharma, help you paranoid bacteria, antibacterial soap. We're more bacteria than human DNA. So what's antibacterial, anti-human? Now people are learning that, hey, we need some bacteria in our skin. We need bacteria in our, they make us fear that. They make you fear E. coli, the most important probiotic. It's so important. You'll die. You'll constipate and die. But people don't know they have E. coli. I have to tell people, yeah, you have E. coli. Because big pharma wants you brainwashed. They want you taking antibiotics. They want you taking Pepto-Bismol for your acid indigestion, which robs acid out of your stomach, makes you feel good for a few seconds, and then you need it more. Everything's made so you need more and more and be a consumer, little pathetic, humble sheep. Go bad, be your humble, and then tell everybody else to be humble. Don't love yourself too much. This is ugly system that I believe it's human nature as well to be this way. And that's why I don't attach myself to humanity. If people say they can be transgender and stuff like that, well, I say I'm another species. I say I'm evolved from human. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe you can change your gender. I mean, there are hermaphrodites, but I don't believe that you can really change it.
We're gorillas, me and you.
Huh?
We're gorillas, me and you.
Yeah, we're evolved apes. And I feel like yeah, that's what we are. Some people don't even know we're animals. I have to debate people. I'm like, well, animals eat raw, and they're like, well, we're human. We're not animals. I'm like, How stupid are these people in the comments? Please go right now and Google the definition of an animal. It'll say like we'll say, I forgot what it is. Organic being that can digest organic matter. You're an animal. What the heck? Look up the definition. And people will argue with me for hours that they're not animals. Like, it's just crazy that people that and I'm crazy to them. And people will argue this because everything they argue with you in comments is assumptions. They just assume you get sick from raw more than cooked. They just assume this. But every time I had food poisoning was from cooked food. Like, they'll assume like stupid things and they'll debate you. They think they know. Like, they're like, "Well, humans are not animals. Please look at the definition of an animal. How are you gonna? And how dare you just on social media? Because just people are just so. They say I'm the caveman because I eat raw, and I'm like, no, you're the caveman because caveman is a dumber mentality. You're following what everybody's doing. You're just blindly doing. You're not researching.
So Boban, on a final note, because I don't want to make this too long, obviously, do you feel like, because I didn't get a good picture on this, do you feel like raw meat actually cured your CTE, or do you feel
Not
like it's
cured.
still there?
I feel it's reversing it. I feel like they say you can't reverse it. I feel like it's repairing my brain is feeling good, man. I'm not getting any of those symptoms before of I remember one time like just getting hit with anxiety and just like crying for no and weird stuff. And it hasn't these past. I've been feeling like I've been getting younger. Every birthday I used to get depressed because I'm getting older and closer to death. And now with every birthday, like this year, I feel stronger and better looking and better mentally than I did last year. So now birthdays don't depress me. I feel like I'm reversing my aging. I know I'm not, but just mentally, I'm feeling more and more like a kid again. And it has to be this diet. That's the only difference. And I look at my videos of me fighting when I used to train 3 times a day, 6 times a week, and now I train not that much. And if I flex right now, if I get up now at 41, I look better physically than when I was a trained professional fighter training like a monster. I'm not training that much anymore. I can't know. If I train too much now, I start tearing up. What could it be? It has to be the diet. That's the only thing I could attribute to.
Yeah, this
That's the only thing I
anecdote is
changed.
yeah, this anecdote is very valuable.
I'm 240 pounds now. I look at fights of me when I was 240. I was more, I mean, I always had bitch tits since I was a little kid. I always had a tummy. I used to weigh 320 pounds, but I'm more solid and muscular now at an older age, training much less. Has to be the diet. What else?
Well, with that said, Boban, I think we've covered some very interesting topics, and I'm sure the third person who's watching this, obviously, because there's be you and the person watching, is gonna enjoy this. You're a very interesting person, and I already knew that this conversation would be amazing. With that said, thank you, my friend.
All right. It took a while for me to, you were telling me to do this with you for a while. It took me a long time to finally do it with you, but I'm glad I
Yeah,
did.
it took a while.